Yo, let me tell y'all something real quick. Let me make this video real quick while I'm on the shit. For all you men and women who might be facing serious time, let's say you're doing like facing 20, 30 years, 40 years, some shit like that. Whatever you're doing. If you get hit with numbers like that and be a non-violent criminal or offender, I'll tell you something. If you got a defense attorney, I'm gonna tell you, this is for all defensive attorney clientele. If you got a defense attorney, your defense attorney has to be willing to say whatever needs to be said in order to get you off scot-free. If your defense attorney is not willing to say whatever he or she needs to say in order to get you off scot-free, I mean, your ass is out the cell that day, nigga. If they're not willing to say whatever the fuck they need to say to get you off scot-free, you need another defense attorney, you need another lawyer, you need to ask the judge for another lawyer, you need to rework another lawyer, another situation. I'm gonna tell you why. You need to adjourn the case. I'm gonna tell you why. And it's only gonna be one why. Right? Self-evident evidence is only 50% of what can prosecute you successfully. You have to be prosecuted successfully. Self-evidence is only 50% of what can prosecute you successfully. There's the other 50%, and that's empirical evidence. You see, empirical evidence and self-evidence is not the same. Just like a burglary and a robbery is not the same. It's the same analogy. It's the same synonymous context of, practical application to any real life circumstance, situation, scenario, event, occurrence, happening, instance, whatever you want to call it. They're all synonymous with one another. There needs to be empirical evidence. That means physical proof. DNA evidence. But even DNA evidence is not enough if there's not a story to back DNA evidence. DNA evidence, there has to be a narrative, a chronological narrative on the DNA that was there. Just because your DNA is there don't make you guilty of whatever you're being accused of for being there, especially if it's a place where you're back and forth to. It's a place you're known to be at. Our DNA is everywhere. Our DNA is everywhere. Like, what the fuck? But if your DNA is at the scene of the crime and the crime is at a public place, then, well, everybody's DNA is here. So whose DNA is here for what? Duh. So there has to be empirical evidence. They have to prove that. Whose DNA is here for what? They have to prove that. That the ball is in the prosecution, the district attorney's court, in order for them to prove, oh yeah, there's DNA, but DNA for what? DNA for what? What is the DNA for? Where is that telling us he committed the crime? Because there's others' DNA there too. So you might have co-defendants, but that's not the point though. That's not the point I'm making. Y'all get the gist. Because they would have thrown that out anyway. If a defense attorney went that hard, they would have thrown that out anyway. The point is, 50% of a prosecution success is only of self-evidence, which can be proven. It can be proven as not evident or evident as is. So your self-evidence proof can only be proven if it's as is. There's no proven self-evident as conclusive, true, or factual without that self-evidence being fully backed by some form of empirical evidence. So that's the other 50%. So actually self-evidence needs, the achievement and the success of self-evidence needs and depends on, it's like leaning like a crutch, like how a crippled person needs a crutch or a wheelchair, self-evident agendas or self-evident claims, self-evident documents or self-evident reasons for detaining somebody needs to be proved and backed up with fundamental empirical evidence, which is the other 50%, to prove without a doubt that this person deserves to be defined as a criminal and to be detained for criminal activities or whatever the fuck they want to call it. They want to call it criminal activities. So now here's the point here. Here's the point that I'm making, knowing that it takes self-evidence and empirical evidence to really give somebody time on the books. I'm talking about like working with on the books, because if an officer or a district attorney is not practicing and following the law by the books as is, they can always be caught. Like, there's so much room for them to be caught. And when I say caught, I'm talking about caught red-handed in the courtroom, fingers pointed at them, no rebuttal, humiliation, embarrassment. They probably don't want to go and take up no cases no more. Like, so an officer getting caught or a district attorney getting caught not following the book in a courtroom is up to your defense attorney's position. That's what your defense attorney is for. Your defense attorney is there to make the prosecutor feel like he doesn't ever want to step back in the courtroom again because of that ass whooping that he got. So basically, it's no different. Your defense attorney is supposed to be the boxer that whooped another boxer's ass so bad that boxer ain't never stepped back in the ring again. That's the job. That's the role of your defense attorney. So if your defense attorney is not that for you, you need to find another one. And chances are you're probably gonna need to find one that looks like you. If you a nigga, or if you a Latin and you speak another language, or if you a woman, chances are you're gonna need to find a Negro lawyer, a Latin lawyer, an Asian lawyer if you're an Asian. Chances are you're better off. I swear to God, you're better off finding a lawyer that looks like you, so that they can really defend you to their best ability. Because a white man is not going to defend a brown man at the best of his ability when he cannot imagine being a brown man. Therefore, he can't imagine being a brown man. He cannot imagine a brown man's calculative deducing when it comes to discrimination, profiling, and harassment. How we come up in our own rational, sound mind, how do we come up with the premise that we're being discriminated, harassed, and profiled against, right, biologically? So that we're profiled against by our biology, not by our religion. This is race now. Well, apparently race. This is apparently race. They call it apparently race when it's really special. It's really special because we're being profiled by our biology. You understand? My biology is human species. I'm human species. That's biological. Because I'm profiled because of my skin. Once you talk about skin, that's straight biology. That's one. Straight biology. So I'm being profiled because of my skin tone, my skin color. This is why I'm being questioned. This is why I'm being questioned. Because of my biology. Because they're citing my biology. They're perceiving, they're seeing, they're citing my biology. They're not perceiving my bar mitzvah hat. You understand me? That's religion. It's not the same. Religion is not biology. So they're not perceiving my little bar mitzvah, my little Jewish hat. They're perceiving my skin. They're not perceiving my hat that I take off because it's not a part of my biology. My religion is not a part of my biology. My skin is a part of my biology. So as a Negro, we don't share the same calculative deducing. Our deduction and our reasoning is not the same as a white man's. We go further. And we go further by a fucking milestone. We go so fucking far, they can't imagine no more. Why? Because we're not the same. We're simply not the same. And we're not the same because my premise on why I feel, my premise, that means my logical, calculative deducing on my feelings, my actual feelings. We talking about feelings. Feelings is not what we use in a courtroom. Feelings is not what we use when we are logically attempting to express ourselves accordingly. Feelings is not what we use when we are logically attempting to express ourselves accordingly. Feelings is not what we use when we are attempting to articulate our ideas with one another. Feelings is not what we use. We use rationality. We use reasonability. We use reason. We use reason, rationality, and we use logic, logos. Logos and logic is one and the same. So now, as a brown man, when I use my logic, I'm calculatedly deducing that the premise on why I'm feeling that I'm being discriminated, profiled, or harassed by this Caucasian man or woman can be proved empirically. Whether it's through an audio recording, it's through surveillance footage, or video footage, or there's an eyewitness account that is recording or keeping empirical evidence. This feeling, it can be validated, improved by my Negro intellect, by my Negro calculative deducing. It can be proven. My Negro reasonability, my Negro rationality, my Negro logicality, my Negro accordance, my Negro chronological accountability of the events that occur can be proven indefinitely, indubitably, undoubtedly as discriminatory, harassful, and profilingful. Which, if you notice, gains me alimony and compensation for mental and emotional and physical damages in the courtroom. So I'm the only person that can gain millions of dollars from mental, emotional, and physical obstruction. In other words, torture, harassment, suffering, damages, alterations done, committed, permanent or temporary alterations committed to my mental and emotional health that lead to my physical non-well-being, because I've proven without a doubt that I was discriminated and profiled against because of my biology. I'm talking about my skin. And what solved this? My Negro calculative deducing, not a Caucasian man's calculative deducing. My Negro intellect, my Negro reasonability, my Negro reasonable articulate suspicion fundamentally backing up my feelings. My reasonable articulate suspicion on why this injustice was done and committed towards me is 100% accountable for my feelings to be chronologically accorded and rational. So my feelings now becoming rational as a Negro. I'm rationalizing my feelings in a way that a Caucasian man can't, because a Caucasian man can't take another Caucasian man to the courtroom and get paid $10,000 because he was racially profiled by another Caucasian man with a badge on his chest. A Caucasian man can walk in the courtroom and receive $20,000 from the state for mental and physical and emotional damages for a man with a star on his chest racially discriminating against him. He would need some type of apparel that's not related to his biology in order to receive any formula of a fucking compensation for any type of discrimination, harassment. But it's not profiling. It's discrimination and harassment. If any white man can receive any compensation or alimony for being targeted for an accessory, an apparel, an item that is not related to his biology, he can be discriminated and he can be harassed on, but he cannot be profiled. Only a Negro can be profiled. And only a Negro can be profiled because of his biology. He cannot be profiled because of what hat he got on, what chain he got on, what earrings we got on. He cannot be profiled because of that. He can be profiled. He can be profiled because of the tone of his skin, his facial features, whether he got a mustache or not, or he got a beard or not, whether his skin is honey mustard yellow, or whether his skin is golden brown, or whether his skin is dark brown chocolate. He got to be profiled because of his biology, his nature, his mammalian, his mammal, his organisms. He got to be profiled because of his organ. Skin is the largest organ in your body. He got to be profiled because of his organ. You can only be harassed and discriminated on, but yet that same Negro can be harassed and discriminated on for his jewelry, for his earrings, for his hat. If he got a whatever they call it, the bar mitzvah hat, Jewish hat, he can be discriminated, harassed. He can be harassed for wearing this hat, and he can prove that, and he can get his money in the courtroom. That applies to the Jewish man. That applies to the brown man, because the brown man could be Jewish. And the fucking white man could not be Jewish. He could not be Jewish at all. And he just wouldn't have his hat on. He wouldn't have his Jew hat on. And all of a sudden, he's not Jewish, right? But he's still white. He's still white, but he's not Jewish. So how can he get compensated in alimony for mental and emotional damages for, profiling? Because you have to profile someone in order to discriminate against them. The whole case, the whole scenario in itself is harassment. You see, in order for you to experience discrimination, you have to get profiled first. You have to get profiled first. You have to get cited first. And then the officer or the public servant will have to have a very, very unreasonable, articulate reasoning. A very unreasonable, articulate rationality of an explanation on why they are emergency halting you, or why they are emergency detaining you, or why they are emergency stopping you to speak with you. They don't have any reasonable, articulate expression, any idea that they can apply to you with a vocabulary of words that makes a chronologically accorded, linear account of why they need your presence there with them. Then they can't stop you. They don't have no reason to stop you. If the officer goes, hey, let me talk to you real quick, no, and you keep moving, well, then that's that. The same way, if a woman says no, well, then your ass better keep walking on, right? Because then that becomes harassment. If you don't keep walking on, after you say, nah, you can't speak to me, your ass better keep walking on. So if the officer doesn't have a reason to be speaking to you, and he know he don't have a reason to be speaking to you, and you know he don't have a reason to be speaking to you, you don't oblige yourself to speak to them. You're not obligated to speak to them. You're not obligated to answer no questions. Now, if an officer's like, yo, do you got the directions here? Do you know where this place is at? I don't know. He wouldn't ask you why. He wouldn't ask you for directions because he got Siri on his iPhone and his cell phone, and he got motherfucking map and GPS in his fucking squad car. So I'm just giving you an example. I'm not like petty, but and no officer is gonna ask you for directions. Feel me? He already got the avenues to get directions. So am I telling you to go and bully officers? Because anybody can kind of go and bully officers with this video. I'm not gonna front. Like, anybody can use this video to bully officers. I'm not gonna hold y'all. You know what I'm saying? Any lawyer could get away with bullying an officer. You know what I'm saying? That knows an officer is not following any accordances to his structural procedures or any of the words written in the motherfucking titles, the affidavits, the documents, the statutes, the Constitution mostly. If they're not following any of the vocabulary words written in the fucking Constitution, yeah, they can get bombarded with motherfucking drops in statistics. The feds dropped from a 97 conviction rate to a 0% conviction rate within months. if your defense attorney and if defense attorneys in general treated the courtroom like a fucking boxing match. You know, Mayweather 50-0. Any fucking boxer wants to go 50-0. There's not a boxer alive that wouldn't want to go a perfect streak. There's not a fucking boxer alive that wouldn't want a perfect streak to boxing. So why the fuck would your defense attorney go walk into the courtroom and give you a half-ass litigation, not working, you know what I'm saying, just basically not.
What's up, man?
What's going on? Working to the good. Working to the
today, right?
Yeah, it is.
Good.
Working to the best of their ability to get you off scot-free. You know what I'm saying? Your lawyer should not be telling you about no plea deal. Your lawyer should be telling you about scot-free. You know what I'm saying? You know how hard the fucking police and the DA have to work for evidence, for empirical evidence? Nigga, you know how sloppy you gotta be to just leave whatever the fuck you leaving behind, whatever the fuck you leaving. You know how sloppy you gotta be. And honestly, if you got so much, if your face is on camera, you ain't wearing no gloves, you ain't got no motherfucking, you just leaving your spit and your saliva everywhere, nigga, you kind of deserve to get locked up at that point. Like, you deserve to get locked up for stupid. Like, stupid niggas get locked up. It's like stupid niggas get locked up, bro. It's not a motherfucking a chip of honor, a badge of motherfucking toughness. No man should be walking around talking about they needed prison for them to become a man. Like, you don't see where that's like a fallacy. That's a serious fallacy. You needed prison. You needed to get babysat for you to know what it was like to become a man. Like, nah, bro, you needed the real world to know what it was like to become a man, not prison. You don't need prison to know what it's like to become a man. You became a man in prison. Like, nah, I'm not saying prison don't build men or don't build character. But what I am saying is, no man should be walking around on earth saying that they needed prison in order for them to become the men that they are today. They didn't need it. There was always, alright, a better set of, you know, possibilities for them to experience. Whether it was a possibility of you not committing what you committed at all, or it was a possibility of whether you committed what you committed smarter. Right? So, you know, I'm not here to judge nobody for basically committing what they committed stupidly, you know, because if you give the district attorney a easy motherfucking case to prove, if you give your district attorney an easy accordance to follow, you give your district attorney an easy chronological accordance to follow, to the point where they don't even gotta break none of their own rules. They don't gotta break none of their own rules to prosecute your ass and to convict you to whatever the fuck they want to convict you. Then, nigga, you wasn't bright enough to be doing what the fuck you was supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't have been doing what you was doing if you knew that you was just going to not give a fuck about the rest of your fucking life, because your defense attorney can only give a fuck about you as much as you give a fuck about yourself. You know what I'm saying? So if you on top of your defense attorney ass, chances are if they get offended, if your defense attorney is offended, or if they wanna slack, or they don't wanna, you know, work for you no more because you on top of their ass, you need another defense attorney. And honestly, you know what I'm saying, if you was to work towards getting that person removed from their bar association statuses, or just from their career and their field of work in general, I wouldn't even motherfucking call you wrong. You know what I'm saying? If you just wanted to get that person just disbarred for not wanting to basically be as passionate and be as serious and be as, you know, competitive in a courtroom as you are as the fucking defendant. You know what I'm saying? You want your motherfucking boxer in there winning. You want your boxer in there throwing punches. You don't want no fucking sissy ass, punk ass defense attorney that's scared to fucking speak to the judge and scared to speak against the prosecution because, you know what I'm saying, they don't want to throw punches. They don't want to place the ball back in the prosecution court. Your defense attorney is always supposed to place the fucking ball back in the hands of the prosecution. Always. If your defense attorney is not placing the ball back in the hands of the defense attorney's in the hands of the prosecution to prove without a doubt, then your defense attorney is not doing what the fuck they supposed to do. And I'm gonna tell you one thing right now about the defense attorneys. I'll tell you one thing about a good defense attorney, and chances are you're not gonna find one of these good defense attorneys. Chances are you're not gonna find one. If your defense attorney is willing to say whatever the fuck he or she needs to say in a courtroom in order to get you off scot-free, because this niggas are 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years, and they might not even have surmountable evidence to even put you away for that long. You know what I'm saying? They really be talking out their ass. You have to understand, when they be talking about these plea deals and what they gonna do, what they gonna do this, what they gonna do, they gonna do that, they gonna do that, they gonna do that. They're really talking out their ass, and they ass don't know shit. They ass don't know shit from their motherfucking temple, because they ain't never built one. Get it? They ain't never motherfucking built one. You see that motherfucking temple in the United States dollars from Egypt. They ain't never built nothing. So when they be talking out their ass, talking about they want to do this, they got to prove that. And it's up to your defense attorney to have them and make them prove without a doubt that you deserve to be defined as a criminal. Fuck the law that you broke. Fuck all that shit. Make them prove. They got to make sure that they prove that you deserve to be defined as a criminal. You deserve to be labeled as a criminal, because that's your record. So now, that's a motherfucking A1 tip. That's a little advice tip for professional lawyers who call themselves professional lawyers. If you a defense attorney, you a real defense attorney, your fucking goal at the end of the day in the courtroom is to provide an account and a presentation that provides enough substantial proof that your defensive client doesn't deserve to be defined as a criminal. If you can't prove that, then my nigga, you can't get your way. You can't get your way, man. You can't get your reps up. You can't get your reputability up. You can't get your credibility up, because you can't perform a simple task as making sure that the judge understands that your defensive client doesn't deserve to be defined as a criminal. Fuck the law that they talking about. There's always a loophole. Ask any politician. There's always some fucking loophole, right? Right. There's always some fucking loophole, right? You're a lawyer, you know best. There's always a fucking loophole. You work on making sure that your client isn't defined as a criminal, instead of working on focusing what the fuck law says he broke this and what law he says broke that. Because for every law that's broken, there's always a law somewhere else allowing that person to lawfully break that law. Right? That's what a loophole is. Every law that can possibly be broken that's written from the state, there's always a constitutional law that says this person is allowed to practice this habit, this habitualization, free of charge, without any stipulations of penalties and punishments. This person is allowed to carry on this law. So if a person is carrying on a law that's unexpirable, that means it's no deadline to the law, then that said person carrying out one law that's only breaking another law that was written at another date becomes a contradiction filled with unjustified means. It's filled with unjustified means, because a contradiction has to be justified in the courtroom. You can't justify counting to 10 in a disorderly conduct. You know, if you attempt to count to 10 and you disordered, you can't justify that. If I say, yo, if I got a gun pointed to you and you tried to and I told you to count to 10 and you tried to justify counting to 10 in a disorder, you're gonna get shot. You're gonna get shot. You're gonna get shot, nigga. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? If I said I got $10 million for you to count to 10, and then you counted to 10 in a disorderly, and then you try to justify counting to 10 in a disorderly as completed, successful, accomplished, achieved, or just simply done, you're not getting the $10 million. That's the same way that works in the courtroom. So if your lawyer is not willing to say whatever they need to say, and here's a point, a whole 29 minutes of the video. If your lawyer is not willing to say whatever they need to say to get you off scot-free, then they are not your lawyer, and they're not working within the definition of their job title.
Just the cable.
Just the cable? Yeah.
So I'm gonna fix that.
Alright.
You change shifts, right?
Yeah, later.
All day?
Nah, I'm not. Later.
Later comes somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna tell the person that don't lock the gate, I'll come back. They close at 7, right?
Yeah.
I'll come back to lock the gate.
Alright. And I'm gonna tell you, a lawyer A lawyer that is, and I'm gonna end the video right here because it's 30 minutes and I didn't plan to make this shit 30 minutes. I'm gonna tell you, a lawyer that is willing. Mind you, I didn't give mad advice to these fucking lawyers. Any professional lawyer who watches shit, I didn't give him too much advice. A lawyer that is willing to say whatever they need to say. Here's the catch-22. A lawyer that's willing to say whatever they need to say in a courtroom to get your ass off scot-free, you or whoever, to get your ass off scot-free, will get away with using profanity in the courtroom. Guarantee you 100%. A lawyer that is willing to say whatever they need to say to get your ass off, you or whoever it may be, to get your ass off scot-free, will get away with using profanity and vulgarness in a courtroom to prove his legitimacy, his accuracy, his precision, to prove his rightfulness. All he has to do is be right. All he has to do to prove his rightness, his rightness, what we call rightness. Rightness is righteousness. Rightness. You know what I'm saying? So if you're in a courtroom and nobody is following what's right, then there's two possible routes that can manifest and open up for you. Since nobody's following what's right, and you know that nobody's following what's right, everything in your life could go wrong, or everything in your life could go right. That's a catch-22. If you know nobody in the courtroom is following what's right, you gotta be well educated enough, and you do have to be educated. You have to be well educated enough, and it don't take no school to educate you. That's one. You have to be well educated enough to know what's not right and how that's gonna benefit you, because now this has to be literally spoon-fed to your defense attorney. Yo, what's not right? This has to be spoon-fed to your defense attorney, because he's the one that gotta go up to the courtroom and make sure that the judge is not prosecuting his client for the prosecution instead of the prosecution prosecuting his client. You see, because the judge is just the mediator between the two. You understand? The judge is the referee between the two. No judge is supposed to be on the fucking seat doing the prosecutor's job. You understand me? That's not what the judge is there for. The judge is not there to do the prosecutor's job. The judge is there to shut the fuck up and listen to what the prosecutor gotta say. Period. And for the motherfucking defensive attorney to counteract and contradict what the fuck is spoken, for him to deflect what's spoken, what's being presented. The job is not for the judge to prosecute no client of the defense attorneys on behalf of the state or the feds. That's not the judge's role. That's not the judge's role. They're not a prosecutor. The judge is not a fucking prosecutor. The judge is a mediator. The judge is a motherfucking quid pro quo. The judge is a quid pro quo. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to listen to both cases. I'm not going to take on the beliefs and the opinions of the prosecution and then interrogate the defense attorney with all of the beliefs and opinions that the prosecution have, when the defense attorney has to wait and listen to the prosecution prove without a doubt with empirical evidence to provide substantial amount of evidence for their self-apparent evidence that their beliefs and their opinions are true. Because I guarantee you in the courtroom, now here's the killer, because I'm about to kill him with this. Here's the killer. An opinion can't be proven as factual. That'll shut the courtroom the fuck up. That'll shut any motherfucking judge up. That'll shut any DA up on a shut the fuck up basis. An opinion is not factual. A fact can be proven. A fact can be proven, an opinion cannot be proven. So they gotta watch their words 30 times harder than a defense attorney gotta watch his words. A district attorney, a prosecutor, the state, the feds, they gotta watch their words more strictly than a fucking defense attorney, because they can get laughed at in a courtroom for stating opinions as if they were facts. And then for a defense attorney to say, well, that's not the fact of the matter. That's your opinion. That's your belief. You have to prove that, because I got all the empirical proof and the evidence that says the fact is here, the fact is presented, the fact is stated, the fact is chronologically accorded, the fact is accounted for, and the fact is a contradiction to your opinion and your personal beliefs. Like, you might as well be religious up in this motherfucker. Stupid.